I'm Dawn Hawkins from Morality in Media and Porn Harms, and I am here right now with Robert Flores, who is on our team, and we're so grateful for that. But he is he used to work at the Department of Justice and was a prosecutor in the obscenity, child exploitation and obscenity section, and then after that he was put in charge as an administrator of the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. He's been involved for many years in uh, obscenity cases and cases that help protect children, sex trafficking, etc. And so we're here to pick his brain about the issue of prosecuting obscenity and why we do this, how we do this, what these laws are. A lot of people are always complaining and saying that it's a waste of time and resources to try to take this on and have the law prosecute pornographers. So let's just start right there. Is it a waste of time?
It's not, Dawn, and it's a pleasure to be here with you and talking with our audience. Let me start by just making a distinction between obscene material and pornography. For purposes of the work that a lot of people are doing out there, there really is no difference. But with respect to federal prosecution, there is a difference. Obscenity deals with that portion of pornography which is prosecutable, meaning it meets a test that the Supreme Court created. And for most people, they recognize it as hardcore material. So that's one of the things that I want the audience to really be aware of, is that it's really very important for them to think about what it is they're talking about. And sometimes we find that the pornographers really take advantage of that and suggest that people have no idea what we're really talking about. But we are. The courts have very clearly defined it. We have had many prosecutions. When I was actively prosecuting cases in the late 80s and early 90s, we won convictions in more than 120 cases, and we had more than $21 million worth of fines and forfeitures. Many of those cases...
Wait, how much?
More than $21 million in less than an 18-month period in terms of fines and forfeitures.
How much did it cost you to, in general, I know you don't
less than $2 million to run the entire section, all of the prosecutors, all of the support staff, all of the supplies, all of the travel,
so
less than $2 million.
The government was kind of making money.
Well, what we were doing was making sure that the people who committed crimes didn't profit from it, and they were making so much money that when we forced them to forfeit their criminal proceeds, we ended up taking in a lot of money. So to go back to this, obscene material is that material which most people would recognize as hardcore material, and it shows actual sexual acts taking place. Pornography is the bigger definition. It's really the umbrella phrase, and that includes any material of a visual nature or written nature that's sexually oriented or designed to arouse someone's sexual response. So you can have pornography that's not illegal, but obscenity is that portion of the material which prosecutors recognize can be prosecuted. You can get a conviction. We've done it routinely in the United States, and the pornographers claim that no one knows really what it consists of, or even that one famous, I'd like to refer to it as an infamous statement by a Supreme Court justice that they know it when they see it. The reality is everybody knows really what we're talking about. And the government has never launched efforts to get rid of material which were artistic. They've never launched efforts to try to get material, statues, pieces of art. All of those things are arguments that the pornographers use to try to convince people that somehow we're going to go after art if we're allowed to go after obscene material. So that's a distinction. But let me get back to your question, and that is it a waste of time and money? It's not, for a couple reasons, and I hope that we have some prosecutors watching, and if we don't, I hope that you as citizens will go out and talk with your prosecutors about it, and I'll help you get prepared for that conversation. First of all, these are crimes. The federal government has a number of statutes on the books criminalizing this content. Most states in the United States have statutes criminalizing the content. And so, as prosecutors, we have an obligation to prosecute criminal conduct. And this criminal conduct impacts people's lives. When I started as a prosecutor in New York City, one of the things that we were taught, quite frankly, is that quality of life matters. It's important not just to prosecute the murders and the robberies, not just white-collar crime, but crime that's going to make a difference to the average person on the street. We used to have problems in New York City where you would have open-air drug markets. Now, some people want to legalize drugs and they want to provide hypodermic needles. Regardless of how you come out on that debate, it's really a very challenging thing to be a single mom living in a place that's perhaps not as nice as other places, and then have to take your child to school and have to step over condoms and hypodermic needles and all those kinds of things. And so when all of a sudden she gets up one morning, that's just gone because those people have been arrested, that conduct has stopped. This makes a difference in her life. And I think that's one of the things that prosecutors have to remember. It's really very important to take a moment and think about how can you bring the law to bear in your community in a way that's going to make a difference for the regular person. And I'll talk a little bit more. I'm sure you'll ask me some questions about, the harms of pornography and some other reasons. But the other reason that it's not a waste of money is that these crimes are not tied to things that are minor. So, for instance, when we were prosecuting federal obscenity cases, we ended up employing the racketeering statute because sometimes organized crime was involved in this activity. If you are concerned as a citizen about human trafficking, you need to be concerned about pornographers today because many of them are creating a whole new market where you can get made-to-order pornography through webcams. Maybe you've been somebody who's received spam advertising one of those services. You have prostitution and escort services that are tied to this, and they provide pornography as a teaser, many times material which is obscene, which is hardcore. You also have a situation where many women and children are exploited by this material, and they may wear a smile on their face while they're being tortured or they're being humiliated, or even worse is happening to them. But this is not what we aspire to in our communities, and it's a violation of, I think, any community's standards, and that's one of the tests. Is this something that is acceptable to a community? Not is it tolerated. Unfortunately, today we are forced to tolerate a lot of different things because our prosecutors are not perhaps inclined to pursue these kinds of cases, or they have other kinds of restrictions that they're working under. But by and large, this is about what do we want to accept? What do we want our community to be like? And so this is important for that reason. The third thing is you can't effectively address a number of other crimes which are very, very important to people. If you're a dad and you have daughters, one of the things that you're concerned about is teen dating violence. We've heard a lot about that. It's in the news all the time, unfortunately. What's one of the things that causes that? Well, I don't have any doubt that it's some of the educational material that's out there. I mean, we believe, that's why we send our children to school, that's why we give them books, that's why we read to them all the time. For those who are committed to their faith, that's the reason why you teach them the Bible or whatever holy books that your religion has. And so we expect people to take what they see and what they read and what they spend a lot of time consuming and then act on it. So we have young men who believe that girls like to be hit and hurt when they have sex. They believe that every girl wants to have sex all the time. Today we live in a culture where the pornography is also teaching girls that that's all boys want to do. So we have a sexting epidemic. We have young kids as young as 7, 8, 9 years old now being found to have engaged in sexual activity in their classrooms when the teachers are out doing something else. So if we want to address domestic violence, if we want to address prostitution, we want to address teen dating violence and human trafficking, you have to get a handle on one of the major contributors to all of these kinds of crimes, because that's where people are being educated about how to do these things, and should they do them. So, in answer to your question, I think that one of the biggest lies that the pornography industry tells people, and even tells prosecutors, is this isn't important. Go out and prosecute real crime. And I can't tell you how angry that makes me.
Well, going along with that, I think one of the most common concerns or comments that we receive is this isn't as important as child pornography. Why are you guys spending your time making a big deal about adult pornography when there's so many child pornographers out there? What's your answer to that? Are they related? What do you think?
Well, I think that as someone who not only prosecuted a lot of child pornographers and predators during my federal prosecution days and my state prosecution days, one of the things that I tell prosecutors is that if you really want to address the child pornography issue, you're going to have to address the adult obscenity issue. Mm. And the reason is it's related, and this is how it's related. If you have a situation out there where you have so much material, it's just everywhere, you can't escape it. What ends up happening is that you end up with a real difficulty in terms of really trying to find the needle in the haystack. Now, thankfully, child pornography, as large a problem as it has become, is still dwarfed by the number of obscenity violations that exist. And so, if you want to begin